Hello. Hey everyone, it's Kirsten here from iamkomposed, and thank you for joining me for another card design session. Today I'm using two stamp sets by Lawn Fawn. The first one is Critters at the Dog Park, and the second one is what's that stamp set called? I can't remember. It's the Flamingo stamp set by Lawn Fawn. I think it's called You Flamingo. Oh no, it's Flamingo Together, I think. Anyway, I stamped all those images out using Tuxedo Black ink by Memento and my trusty stamping block. So now I'm just coloring in all my images using my Copic markers. I will leave the color combinations that I'm using on the screen for you and also in the description box below. Now, when coloring a bunch of images for a scene card, I think it can be a bit intimidating because you want to use colors that will obviously work well together. But my solution to this is to just use every color. So try and use every color from the rainbow, and then you're guaranteed that it will all fit together once you put your scene together. I'm going to put on some music for you to enjoy while I finish coloring up these images, and I will see you when I start putting this card together. Okay, so now that all my images are colored in, it's time to fussy cut all of them out. And yes, I do that by hand. Now that everything's ready, I can begin working on my background. For that, I'm going to be doing some ink blending using my Distress Oxide inks. The two colors I'm going to be using are Salty Ocean and Lucky Clover. Yes, there it is on the screen. So Lucky Clover for the grass. And what I'm doing is I'm first pouncing my blending tool onto some scrap paper so that the color isn't too intense for the grass. And when I do the Salty Ocean blending, I'm going to pounce my blending tool, I think 2 times, so that I can get an even lighter tone. This is a great technique if you don't have a lot of Distress Oxide ink pads, so that you can get a bit more use out of your darker colors. Now, I must admit, while I was busy doing this background, I thought to myself, okay, this looks kind of messy. This isn't looking so great. But I promise you, once you start putting the images onto the background, then the attention completely changes from the background to the images. And so you don't have to worry about an imperfect background. I'm also going to be using the grassy stamp the grassy stamp, the grass stamp from the Critters at the Dog Park stamp set, just to add some texture and interest to the background. Now it's time to assemble my scene. So what I like to do is just place everything on the card without sticking it down, just so I can play around with where things go and see how everything is going to fit together in the end. And now that everything is in place, I'm going to be using this paper glue by Dala. It's a local company. And I'm going to put a little bit on the back of my images and stick them down. The only thing I don't like about this glue is that it's got a huge nozzle. And when you're busy gluing down such small things onto paper, you do want to use just a little bit of glue. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of warping. Also going to use up that little spot that I put on my surface. Waste not, want not. And while the stuff is drying, I also put my acrylic block onto the images so that they dry nice and flat. Now that the whole card is assembled, it's time to attach the card front to a card base. So I've folded a piece of paper in half, and now I'm going to put double-sided tape on the back of the paper, and I will use that to stick the card front to the card back. Sorry, I take it out of the frame there for a second. Yeah, it takes a lot of concentration to put it together. It's a work of precision. And then everything's finished, and the last thing that I will do is obviously cut off that little piece at the top. So that's the card for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to see more card design sessions, then click the like button and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell as well so you know when the next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!